I think in diving into the two concepts that I want to cover in most detail would be the vector database, right? That's that middle piece, and the concept of embeddings, which are embedded into the vector database. And we're going to look at everything in a little bit more detail. But this analogy, I think that it's decently helpful to think about how this system works and how we'll use it for others. So embeddings, and again, we'll look at some diagrams in a second, are ways to turn language into math and store in a database in a means in which you can compare this sentence has a similar concept to this sentence, or this word has a similar concept to this word, or they're pretty divergent in their concept. So those embeddings are literally just numbers, a whole long series of numbers, and this is how LLMs work, that encode some semantic meaning for text. So those are the senses, the smelling and the hearing, getting some understanding of people and their sentiment based on what they've written. The vector database is where those embeddings get stored. So that's the memory. And then we're essentially packaging up the intelligence that we derive from those embeddings, storing it in the vector database, and then sending it to the LLM for some processing. And we'll look at this very specifically of how we do it. I think on the whole, without tweaking and tuning this, for most people, it does a pretty good job. So there's definitely plenty of fine tuning that would need to be done to really hone this as we would for a client. But ultimately, if you send a lot of messages and feed the LLM enough, it does a pretty good job, I think, at understanding you and what you want. So if you look at mine, like soccer, I don't know, coffee, cooking, maybe biking is in there, hiking, I would say, yoga. Some of them are not perfect, but others are pretty good, and it did a pretty good job of pulling that out. So I think if you get a mix of high quality and medium, then the output ends up being still pretty high quality, or that was at least my take.